It's time for another edition of the Audio Joda podcast. I'm Joe, and yawning over there is Da. She's tired.
Sorry.
She just got home from work.
It's been a busy week, it's only Tuesday.
And it's only Tuesday, but yeah, you'll be fine, babe. I believe in you.
I'll make it through.
All right.
I just need a nap.
Yeah, we thought we'd talk today about, we always say there's nothing good on TV anymore. And that might be true.
Well, that's true for today's television, yes.
Yeah, a lot of the TV, even the good shows have junk in them.
Yes.
It feels like you can't totally get just a wholesome show all the way around. Except for maybe like Heartland or When Calls the Heart or,
Yeah, that one's pretty decent.
And they tend to be okay, but they are few and far between. So what are you to do when you are looking for something really good, really wholesome for the whole family, but it's fun, good stories, good characters? Well, sometimes you got to binge watch an old show.
Or listen to the Joda podcast.
Well, I guess. But what Amanda and I have done recently is we have been binge watching Little House on the Prairie. And we're just about ready to finish up season 3.
I mean, I think they named it wrong.
They did?
Yeah. Instead of Little House on the Prairie, it should be The Great Fall of Carrie.
The Great Fall of Carrie. Because the little girl Carrie falling down.
In the beginning. But it's not just the beginning episode. I feel like throughout the whole first and second season, they always had her falling. She fell down a well. She's always falling. So yes, it should be called The Great Fall of Carrie.
Yeah. But anyway, if you are not familiar with Little House on the Prairie.
Where have you been living?
Well, younger people might not.
Oh, I guess.
Younger people might not.
We grew up on it.
But it's a show that started in the 70s, late 70s. It was based on the books by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And she and her family did move from Wisconsin westward, settled in Minnesota. And this is the story of them settling in a little place called Walnut Grove, which is a real place.
Southern Minnesota.
Still exists to this day. And it's really cool because as you're watching the show, they talk about places that we're familiar with living in Minnesota. Mankato, Sleepy Eye, Rochester,
the cities.
St. Paul, Minneapolis. Yeah. So it's kind of cool for us now living in Minnesota to rewatch this show and kind of pick that out because that was, foreign to us when we were growing up. We were Ohio kids.
Oh, well, and we felt the same way when we rewatched Mary Tyler Moore too. There was a lot of Minnesota things that were like, oh, we get some of the jokes now. Yeah.
But it takes place in the 1870s, and Michael Landon is the star. You probably, if you watched Bonanza or Highway to Heaven, some of those other shows, he was the big star of those, and he plays Charles Ingalls and his wife Carolyn Ingalls and daughters Laura, Mary, and Carrie. And the stories are pretty much taken from the viewpoint of Laura, I would say.
I mean, not all of them, but Laura's the main character.
She narrates,
yeah,
usually, if there's a narrator. Yep. And the great thing about this show is, I mean, it's hard life on the frontier, and it shows, the dangers and things like that. But the great thing about it is so many of the characters have deep lives of faith. Mm-hmm. And it feels like every episode they're talking about Jesus. They're talking about God. They're
singing hymns. Bringing God into solving their problems. And
praying, things like that. And God wants us to do this. And it's just, and it's not a super cheesy way either.
No.
Because you got to remember, these weren't necessarily Christians putting this show together, but somehow it seemed like then they still had a reverence for it, even though they might not have been Christians in real life. They had a reverence for it.
Yeah.
It seems like in modern day television, if they do anything Christian or anything having to do with faith, it's either really ridiculously cheesy or they're the villains. The Christians are the villains. It's a crazy preacher or somebody like that. And they treat the conversation so flippant and with disrespect. It's nice to see that in old shows, and I think you probably saw this on like Andy Griffith and things like that. They came at faith seriously because faith was a bigger part of our culture then, I think.
Yeah, it's refreshing. And you know, we've talked about how I think you just get sitting in that warm pot of water and it just slowly gets turned up, and I didn't realize how terrible the shows were that we were watching really were until we started rewatching Little House on the Prairie, and then I'm just like, oh, it's like drinking a glass of water. It's just refreshing and just so nice.
Yeah, you're not getting hit with language all the time. No sexual
no sex,
stuff.
No nudity, unless it's the dad with a shirt off. But
you don't mind that, do you?
I mean, okay, you're living out in the middle of nowhere. How is he hairless? Like, what is he? He's shaving himself, obviously, but it's like, make it realistic. There's no way you'd be shaving yourself back then. He's hairless. It's weird.
Well, it was the 1970s, and the historical accuracy wasn't top of their
obviously, yes.
I don't think, but other than your concern over Michael Landon's lack of chest hair.
It's weird.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
Cooper.
Cooper didn't like it either.
Cooper's like, I got lots of chest hair, y'all.
Yes, he does. Hi, Cooper. Hi, buddy.
Oh
my.
He likes Little House on the Prairie, too. Although they don't have a cat, but they do have Jack. Oh, I know you
Jack.
don't like... They need a Cooper, I know.
Yeah. He's like, you guys never sit in the dining room. What are you doing this for? No. So anyway, before we were rudely interrupted.
He was trying to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. What do you think your favorite part of the show is?
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. I don't know. I really enjoyed, like, I think what's in the show that we're lacking nowadays is the respect that kids had for their parents.
Ooh.
And I really like seeing I love seeing Michael Landon's character with his relationship with his kids.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is something really special. And I mean, you have that in some television, but this one's like, it's a respect, but he's not their best friend. He's their dad. Mm-hmm. But yet they have such a respect and like, let's just get dad involved. Everything will be okay kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we all know Michael Landon can't fight well because he gets beaten up a lot. But, and I think he wouldn't if he had hair on his chest. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the hair on his chest would slow down a lot of that impact that he gets.
I like the theme I like in the show a lot is friendship.
With him and
Mr.
Edwards.
Victor French's character, Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, it's cute.
There's a lot of great examples of what it means to be a true friend in that show. People going above and beyond, sacrificing, putting themselves on the line for their friends because they would do it for them.
Yep.
And you don't see that a whole lot in shows either.
You're
today.
right. Every time we see Mr. Edwards step up and do something, we're both just like, "Aw,
it's
Mr.
a true
Edwards.
friend.
It's such a good friend." Yeah.
So, all that to say, if you've never watched Little House on the Prairie, it's streaming.
Yes, so you can watch it on Freevee for free.
Free.
You do have to watch commercials, but there's like
short.
2 commercials.
Yeah,
They're
it's
very
short compared to other ones.
And if Joe's saying that, Joe gets so angry with commercials. So if Joe's saying it's okay, then it's okay. But yeah, Freevee, it's an app on, if you have any kind of Roku, it's a free app. You can get on and watch the whole series for free. We're on season 3.
We're just about to start 4.
We're getting ready to start 4.
And I remember watching the show when I was a little kid.
Yes, I've not seen it since I was a child.
When it was on network TV. But this is really the first time I've sat and watched the whole series beginning to end.
Well, because when we were kids, if you missed it, you missed it.
You missed
it.
it.
Was done. Yeah. Well, and I do have to say, watching it as a kid, I really related a lot to Laura. Because I remember feeling like, oh, I've been through that. Oh, yeah, Laura's a tomboy. Oh, she's not a girly girl. I'm not a girly girl. But as an adult, I'm relating a lot. Like, I relate a lot more to the mom or, Mrs. Beadle or, Mrs. Beadle's the school teacher, by the way. And I know Joe seems to relate a lot with Mr. Edwards. I feel like you really like him but I do feel like if you haven't seen it since you were a kid, rewatch it. It's like a whole new show, rewatching it as an adult.
Yeah. It's you even might get the kids involved in there. They might actually like it too.
Oh, it's a family show, and I think it's not cheesy like, oh, the Ingalls are so perfect. They all make mistakes. I mean, we just watched an episode where Laura stole something from Nellie.
She stole something and lied about it, and yeah. So they all make mistakes, and you just get to see them work through it. And there's conflict and what have you.
There's anger and depression, and
So it's just a good show. It's just good entertainment. I
do have to say one thing, watching the show, I've realized I'm way too lazy to live back then.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it.
It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And I'm way too lazy to have lived back then. But Joe, every time they build a house or a cabin, Joe's always like, I wonder if I could build one.
No, I couldn't. Maybe when my body wanted to cooperate with me.
Maybe.
But no, not now.
Even though it's a show, think of how much just in the show Mr. Ingalls has plowed a field.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot.
All the wood chopping and plowing and all of that kind of stuff. That show, he worked hard on that show.
Yeah, he really did. I saw a thing on, I think it was TikTok. They were giving little things about the show, and they were saying it was filmed in California, so a lot of it was like 90-degree days they were doing this stuff. And the girls would complain about their costumes because they were thick dresses and they were just hot. And I guess the first week of filming, the woman who plays Mrs. Ingalls, I can't remember her name, and the girl who played Nellie Olson, both would faint a lot because it would just get so hot. But yeah, that's hard work.
I believe it because when I was doing Civil War reenactment, wearing wool uniforms,
like your wool uniforms were thick
in the 1800s. It would be sweltering out there in the heat, but that's what they wore. And I remember we were doing a reenactment of I think it was Antietam, and the ambulance had to come out onto the field and pick up guys that dropped out from heat exhaustion. So yeah, it's if you're going for historical accuracy, that part is because the thing I never understood was in that time period, the Navy had cotton uniforms for the sailors in summer, but they never gave them to the infantry. They always just gave the infantry wool year round.
Well, because Navy don't most of them like live in a tin box in the water? They can go indoors at any time, but for the infantry, a lot of times they're living in holes and ditches and for a long time.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
And so they need to be able to stay warm at nighttime.
So anyway,
it's crazy. I couldn't. I'm not someone who takes to heat at all.
Yeah, but I don't like heat either. I much rather cold weather than hot. You can always put more layers on. You can only take so many off, and then you get arrested. So
another thing from the show I've taken away from it is like how much they trust people. Like, I can't tell you how many times Mary or Laura have talked to a stranger and they're like, here, I'll give you a ride home. Little girl, hop on my horse. And Mary's like, okay. And she jumps on the horse and he drives her. I'm just like, whoa, stranger danger. You don't know that person.
Or, the parents had to go to Mankato, which was like a couple days ride. And they would just let the girls either be on their own or...
Well, they'd have someone check in on them.
Or somebody check in.
Mr. Edwards or Grace.
It was community. Community really helped take care of each other.
Yep.
And I think that's something we've really lost.
Oh, for sure.
In modern day culture as well. Everybody is off doing their own thing now and what have you. But for good reason, because there's a lot of sickos out there now.
Yeah.
So, but... So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being
How many Carrie falls would I give it? 1 Carrie fall to 5 Carrie falls.
yes,
1 being good, 5 being bad, or vice
no,
versa?
1 being
Bad.
awful, never watch it. 5 being stream it
I
tonight.
say 6 Carrie falls.
6 Carrie falls.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll agree with you.
Yeah.
So
It's really good. Carrie can get annoying.
yeah, well, she was just
She
a
wasn't
little,
and she wasn't a great little actress. She
No.
was very. Every time she said her line, she would be smiling. But it's a good show. It's a really good show. I do suggest rewatching it if you haven't. It's a nice reconnection to something from your youth, and I
Yeah.
think it would be great for your kids to see.
So-
100%.
So there you go. You've got your viewing orders laid out for you.
And if you do rewatch it, let us know like what you're enjoying, because I'm curious to see how other people feel about it too.
So, anything else, babe?
No,
All right.
not
Well,
that I know of.
thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll be chatting with you here about this, that, and the other coming up in a bit.
Yep. Remember, I love you,
And God loves you.
and He'll keep you forever.
That's right, He will.